Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge.
With a valid deportation order, and why is it that the press is so focused on the fake BS rather than what's really going on in the country?
Alright, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this video. In fact, if you have some popcorn, make sure you go grab some. The Trump administration is so sick and tired of the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story. You know, the Maryland man who was deported from the United States down to El Salvador because he was an illegal immigrant. They are so sick and tired of the story, they have gone on a total rampage against Democrats, the left-leaning media, to debunk this entire story. And by the way, more and more evidence keeps coming out against Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but we also have some interesting evidence against our members of Congress who went down to El Salvador.
Grandstanding Democrats took a big trip to El Salvador to visit their favorite Maryland dad, but they never even laid eyes on him. The Daily Caller reports it was a full-blown junket. They stayed at a 5-star luxury hotel with amenities galore, margarita room service. If you feel like letting loose and relaxing on 100% Egyptian cotton sheets, have at it. Or maybe order room service and sample world-class tequila on your outdoor terrace. Did these Democrats chillax in the pool and take in volcano views? Did they get a schwitz in the steam sauna after a hard day's work doing CNN hits from their suites?
Now, I am so curious how you guys feel about this. And by the way, these Democrats did not do anything illegal. However, we almost paid for this trip. Remember, they tried to make this an official trip, and the Oversight Committee said absolutely not. Taxpayer money will not pay for you to go down to El Salvador to go meet up with an illegal citizen.
Breaking news, CNN learning that El Salvador has rejected the Trump administration's request to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That is the man who was mistakenly deported to a notorious mega prison over a month ago from Maryland to El Salvador. One U.S. official telling CNN that El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, has made it clear that he will not release Abrego Garcia. But, of course, the reality of it is that he's there because Trump sent him there because he asked Bukele to take these deportees. And Trump is now making a stunning admission. I mean, it's maybe not, maybe it shouldn't be stunning, but it is because he's actually saying it now. He is saying that he could get Abrego Garcia back if he wanted to.
Now, this is where things get really confusing because I thought Democrats had a really big problem with the Trump administration, especially when it comes to bullying and telling other countries what to do when it comes to the tariffs. But for some reason, when it comes to El Salvador, Democrats have an expectation to essentially bully El Salvador to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to. But I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it because that's how foreign policy works.
With respect to the case that you mentioned, there's not even been more evidence that has been made public of this person's violent, repeated threats and assaults against his spouse. Someone who had repeated, documented human trafficking and human smuggling offenses. Somebody that has extensively documented membership in MS-13, a terrorist organization, and of course he had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. This is a person that was a clear and present danger to the safety of the American people.
Now, if we are being honest with ourselves, Democrats had a lot of momentum at the very beginning of this story. Because, you know, this guy was not supposed to be deported to El Salvador. Even though he was an illegal immigrant, he was protected. And now, more and more and more evidence keeps coming out about Kilmar Abrego Garcia that everyone is shocked that Democrats are still talking about this.
Based on your time as a DEA agent in the field, particularly in Mexico, these tattoos are consistent with MS-13 associations.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Do you know of any other set of combinations that would suggest some other organization this represents?
With this particular one, no, sir.
None of that's
what do you say about the tattoos?
I say that what Trump said yesterday was an absolute lie.
It's not.
They're
not.
Wait,
Photoshopped.
are you saying the MS-13 that Donald Trump claims are legitimate tattoos on this guy are true? Are you saying the Photoshop is true?
Are you a tattoo truther? I mean, I don't understand.
Wait, are you a
They're on there.
Photoshop denier?
You're getting away from the issue. They're on there.
Hold on.
Are you a tattoo truther? That is my new favorite Scott Jennings quote. But what I do want to point out is, as you can see, Republicans are now matching the standard that Democrats are trying to create within the media. Democrats, the left-leaning media, are really trying to turn Kilmar Abrego Garcia into this hero, but now that all of this new evidence is coming out, Republicans, the Trump administration, they are making sure to blast it all over the media to make sure everyone knows Democrats are very wrong about this situation.
And there have been a number of experts on gang tattoos, like CBS. I'm looking at an article right now that they spoke to, who said that these experts did not say that the symbols the judge talked about, the marijuana leaf and the cross,
Then they're
and the
wrong.
smiley. Then they're okay.
They're wrong.
Our gang expert is better
I
than
prosecuted these cases.
That's fine. Either way, public opinion has shifted on this issue.
Now, I promise these clips get even more intense, but first, a word from our sponsor because of you guys. Alright, this video is sponsored by 1775 Coffee Company. Look, you come here because you're tired of the spin, the media lies, the double standards, the fake outrage. So why would you start your day with coffee made by the same corporations pushing that agenda? Well, 1775's Rejuvenate Coffee is a bold, dark roast infused with CAG, a compound studied for its potential to reduce inflammation and support healthier aging at the cellular level. As we get older, CAG levels drop, and with it, recovery, energy, and stamina. This helps put it back where it belongs. Now look, do you want focus without the crash? Their mushroom coffee is stacked with 5 functional mushrooms, including lion's mane and cordyceps, to support mental clarity, clean energy, and immune strength. It's single origin, mold-free, toxin-free, and roasted weekly in Miami. No corporate filters, no ESG garbage, just bold coffee that backs the Constitution, not compliance, and supports freedom, truth, and the people who still give a damn. So, head over to 1775coffee.com, use code T-SPLY, T-S-P-L-Y, like you see on the screen, and get 15% off. I will also put the link in my description, so start your morning with coffee that stands for truth, freedom, and the country you believe in.
On the Garcia case, effectively what you all are arguing for, passionately, and what Democrats are passionately arguing for, is for the President of the United States to re-import a dangerous member of a transnational terrorist organization who has clear affiliations with a gang that commits heinous atrocities. That is not what he was elected to do. And whether you bring him back here or not, I'm just going to explain to you the politics of this through telling you what the Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, did today, which is that he told his members, please, for the love of God, stop going to El Salvador and dying on this hill.
That is right. You heard that correctly. Even Hakeem Jeffries is letting his Democrat colleagues know you have to stop talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, let alone going down to El Salvador. I wish I had the video to show you guys, but I don't. Let us continue.
The politics of this could not be worse for the left and worse for Democrats because the president knows he was elected to protect us from MS-13, and that is what they are doing.
And we just got our hands on the second restraining order his wife took out on him. Says, even if I kill you, no one's going to be able to do anything to me, basically. After all this, the media is still going to bat for their favorite gangster.
Now look, it makes total sense for the media to talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You make money by talking about the man. A lot of people are interested in the topic. However, what Democrats keep getting wrong, and this is why people are getting upset with Democrats to include other Democrats, you are not only wasting your time, you're also wasting taxpayer money by filibustering, talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, when we know El Salvador has already straight up said he's not coming back.
He was arrested and swept up and flown out of the country to El Salvador as part of the government's dragnet campaign against Tren de Aragua. But he had no criminal record, there were no outstanding criminal charges against him, and he had no association with any criminal gang. And yet he was sent to the dictator of El Salvador because he has a tattoo on his right arm which was mistakenly associated with Tren de Aragua. In fact, the tattoo is of a soccer ball topped with a crown, which signifies his favorite soccer club, Real Madrid. Had there been any kind of due process fair hearing, he would have been able quickly to explain the government's error. And there being no other evidence against him, he would have been released.
I already know what you're all thinking. Let's just say we bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and this is what the Trump administration keeps saying. Even if we bring him back, even if we grant that Democrats are completely correct, absolutely no evidence, even though more and more keeps coming out. Let's just say he wins the court case that we are going to have, this imaginary court case, he will still be deported. There are illegal immigrants who have absolutely nothing on their record. They're probably some of the best people ever, but they are still being deported. Do you really think Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not going to be deported?
The political analysis of this, though, is, and a lot of average people are looking at it this way, why is it that we can let 20 million people into the country just walk across, whatever, and there's no real process for them to do that, but then we have to individually pick out every single person and go through years upon years upon years of paperwork and this and that and the other, and all we're trying to do is send them back to where they came from because they came here illegally in the first place. 20 million in with no process. How do you get 20 million out with years and years of people fighting every single case? You could cherry pick any case you want. But the reality is the crisis that put Donald Trump in the White House was caused over years and years and years of neglect and letting people walk into here without any process at all. And now you're trying to gum up the works to keep them here.
A lot of them came in, a lot of them.
And when Scott Jennings says regular people watching this, let's be honest, the majority of Americans don't have time to know that these members of government were hanging out in five-star hotels or the ins and outs of all of the new evidence. Everyday Americans are just trying to survive right now. But one thing I do want to point out is the majority of Americans, they are seeing the Kilmar Abrego case and are like, hold on. I voted for deportations. Why all of a sudden are Democrats standing up for the one illegal immigrant that seems to have a pretty shady past from what I'm seeing, yet Democrats are not bringing that part up? That is what Scott Jennings is trying to point out. If anything, Scott is really helping Democrats and even telling them, you have to stop talking about this. It's not only about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, it's the totality of illegal immigrants. And again, it's shocking that one person was plucked out and is trying to be made like a martyr and some sort of king, and that this is who Democrats are going to run on. That Kilmar Abrego Garcia, you know, he was stolen from the streets, and because of this, it could happen to you. Nobody's buying it.
No, I know you're
not. If you come
not.
to this country illegally, you are going home. Simple as that. We do not have unlimited resources
I think
in
a
this
lot of
country
Americans
to take care of other
There's
people.
a hell of a lot of people, other than the black
Anna.
people who were brought here as slaves, who came to this country illegally.
They're
From a
not
lot
the
of
same as
different-
black people who were brought here against our
That's
will.
exactly what I
They
just said.
decided
I
to
said
walk
there is
their
a
butts
lot
across
of
the
people
border. There's a
other
big
than the
difference.
black
There is
people.
a big difference.
That's exactly what I
There's a
just
big
said.
difference.
That's
Chair Michael,
exactly what I just
Chair
said,
Michael
Chair Michael.
and
Look and act indignant. That's exactly what I
It's not
just
about
said.
acting indignant.
Yes, it is.
Let me
You
just
heard me
Chair
say
Michael.
that other than the black
Anna
people
and
who
Chair
came
Michael,
as
please.
slaves, there are a lot of people from
Chair
many,
Michael, I think
many
you
countries
actually
that came
misheard
here
what
illegally.
I think you misheard what she said.
No, he purposely misheard it.
She said.
I purposely
Yes, you did.
So now you're in my
Chair
brain?
Michael, listen to me for
Is
just a
that,
second.
is that where we're going?
You
Chair
think
Michael,
I would
listen to me
say
for a
I will
second.
have advocated
Anna,
for black
please
people
stop.
my entire life and
Anna,
say something like that?
Anna,
Give me a
Because
damn
you've
break.
advocated for black
Anna,
people,
please
great.
stop.
Congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black. You're not.
Okay, Chair Michael.
That's right. I'm Latino and my people are being racially profiled.
It is.
And
And do I have to remind you the history of my people?
Chair
Do
Michael,
you want to go there?
No, I
Do
don't.
you really
Okay,
want to go
we're
there?
gonna
and
go to
never
break.
have
know the
a
history.
Raul, we're going to go to
You know
break.
why?
Raul
Because
Reyes,
it's
thank you
kidding
very
me
much for
because
joining us.
history
Everybody else, hang tight.
History was not
We'll be right back.
erased.
Remember, they're making a lot of money to argue on TV. For everyday Americans who have this divisive argument with family members or coworkers, this is a very real situation for the current America. We have an illegal immigrant case who's not supposed to be in the country and was going to be deported anyway, yet now legal illegal immigrants somehow have gotten sucked into this. If you're a legal immigrant and you look like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, that means somehow you are in danger. However, I cannot find any case where the Trump administration actually did that, or I cannot find any evidence that suggests that polling is saying that legal immigrants are afraid of being deported. I can't find anything. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that situation. Again, I just want to point out that is the highest rated CNN show currently. So of course they're going to be battling back and forth, but you hate to see when it becomes so divisive, especially when this is actually something we could all come together and say, look, the guy is an illegal immigrant and he's going to be deported anyway.
You were born in India and you're here legally. I want you here. I support your right to free speech. But if we start throwing people like you out of the country with the Democratic president, like that's not right either. And I don't want that. And I want to make sure that people have access to due process. So they've got to show that Kilmar is a dangerous criminal, which I don't think they can do because otherwise they would have already done it. Otherwise, we need to bring this guy home. That's what the Supreme Court has ruled. And every day that Trump is not listening to the Supreme Court, we're in the middle of a constitutional crisis.
Let's look at the differences between me and Kilmar. For one, I came to the country legally as an exchange student. I then became a foreign student and went to Dartmouth.
And again, we keep seeing this argument that legal immigrants need to be afraid because someone like Kilmar Abrego Garcia was deported, even though legal immigrants had to go through the very tough process of not only getting to America, submitting themselves to the government and letting them know, hey, I'm an immigrant, what do I have to do? They did everything correct. Now they have to pay a boatload of taxes, and now they have Democrats saying, well, look, you know, just because you look like somebody, you could also be deported. I think it's absolutely disgraceful, and really it's insulting to legal immigrants throughout America.
Do you think Democrats should continue to go to El Salvador?
I'm planning on going, and I think we should continue to go. I know there's another group that's, I think, looking to go to Honduras.
Honduras. Now, Democrats who couldn't find a babysitter and take off to Central American luxury resorts think chanting for Kilmar will bring them home.
Alright, if you are still watching this video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for interacting with the video. I love reading your comments. And make sure you go buy some great coffee from 1775 Coffee Company. We love them over here. They're awesome. Thank you guys for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all later.